like I said, today is our last large group of lesson. We're trying to get into some more professional practice topics as we end ACE here, which we would normally do in person kind of throughout. Now we're just kind of grouping it together into a couple sessions. So tonight we're going to be reviewing some interview skills, looking at a video that was done by ACE at Home. So reminders, end of year videos. Remember last week we talked about we're asking all students, the instructions have been posted in Classroom, all students to put together 1 to 2 minute video answering a couple of questions that we put together about your experience in ACE this year and activities you worked on, things you learned. In order to kind of get some more interest out of you all, we do have, for every student that enters a video, you'll be entered into a drawing for a $100 gift card. There will be a $100 gift card in each small group. So each small group will do its own drawing. So go ahead and get those videos submitted. There's a Google form link in Classroom that will give you the information you need to go ahead and get that in. Yes, money. As always, check for updates in small group classrooms. You can, I know in my group, I've had a couple of activities come in, even some floor plans come in recently, which is fine, perfectly fine. We still have plenty of time to give you feedback. Taking a look at our session schedule here, you can see we've gone through a lot. So this, remember all these sessions were recorded. So if you ever want to go back and take a look at something to kind of brush up on something, you can access it either through links in Classroom, or if you just go to acerdu.org, we do have a link to all these recordings. So we've covered quite a bit of stuff since October 1st. So like I said, tonight we'll be talking about some professional development. And then we've got 3 small group sessions in a row. So next week we'll be talking about college. The week before that, more specifics into careers, and your lead mentors will be reaching out to you with some questionnaires in order to kind of give us an idea of what kind of information you all would like to discuss. And we'll still have time in there to give you some feedback on your activities. Specifically, I think the cost estimate's the only one that we've had since our last small group session. Our final small group session on the 4th, we'll be looking for feedback on the ACE year, and we'll also have the opportunity, if anyone wants to give their small group a presentation, we can do it then. So finally, March 11th will be, so in a month from today, we'll be doing our final ceremony where we're going to be showing all the videos that you all submit. We'll be awarding scholarships at that time as well. So we hope you all are able to join us. It'll be a session at the same link at 5 o'clock on the 11th, and we'll be sending out more information on that should any of you need it. So I'm going to go ahead and get all these last people in. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start this video. Like I said, it's on interview skills, and it is 49 minutes. So if you have any questions throughout, since we'll have some more limited time for questions at the end, feel free to post them in the chat as we go, and we can try and get those answered. And as always, if you have any questions at the end, we will hang on for a little bit for some extra questions. So I'm going to go ahead and start this video. Thank you all for joining us today. Let's go ahead and take a look at some interview skills.
Hi students, my name is Rachel Gresham. Welcome to ACE at Home. Today we're going to be talking about interview skills. Again, my name is Rachel Gresham. I work for an architecture firm in Nashville, Tennessee. I've worked here as a project architect for about 4 years. I graduated from Virginia Tech in 2013. And I grew up in Virginia, and I've been in ACE Mentors for about 4 years, and I've been leading a team here in Nashville for 3 years.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Warhide, and I work for ACE National. I'm the Central Regional Director. I've worked for ACE for about 7 years. Prior to that, started an affiliate in Central Iowa, which is where I live, in Des Moines, Iowa. So we're excited about this series and all the skills that we'll be presenting.
Hi everyone, my name is Zhu Chen. I'm the Southeast Regional Director for the ACE Mentor Program. Prior to joining ACE, I was an architect for 15 years, and 10 of those years I was a lead mentor in Raleigh. And I also graduated from Virginia Tech.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Monadero. I'm in Houston, Texas, currently working for a firm called Stantec. I've been here for about 7 years now. I've lived throughout all of Texas. I did my undergrad at UTSA in San Antonio. Been a licensed architect for about 3 years now. And today we're going to go on ahead and start this ACE at Home series with 3 students mock interviews, John, Connie, and Rachel. So let's get started. Hi, John, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. It's great meeting you. My name is Megan Monadero. I'm a principal at ACE Design Build Inc. As I'm sure you know, we provide a range of services from general contracting to construction services. We typically will do industrial buildings, public, and some commercial projects. We work in the United States and in Canada. So anywhere that you want to go, we have a place for you. I guess why don't we go on ahead and get started with the interview if you're okay with that.
Okay, sounds good.
How did you spend your time during the COVID-19 crisis? Any new hobbies that you've picked up?
Well, I spent a lot of time working on architecture projects that I have the ability to do so. And I've worked trying to learn more about Revit and how to use it just to refine some architecture skills of mine, which is really my true passion. And I've also expanded doing photography of architecture and landscapes, which is something else I really enjoy doing. And this time has given me a lot of opportunity to expand on those hobbies.
Well, to be honest, since I'm home so much, I've been with my family a whole lot. My brother came home for a while. He was here for like 2.5 months. So we spent a lot of time together as a family, a lot of late night conversations, a lot of family game nights, movie nights, all of the above. It was really fun. For every birthday, anniversary, huge Zoom calls with people from India and America. So the people that I normally see like once or twice a year, I got to see a lot more often, which is really nice. My dad and I have started a family tree, which is really, really big. So I haven't gotten done yet, not even close to done, but like, we're getting there. But I've learned a lot more about my family and where I came from, my ancestors. So that's been really nice. It's not really something I thought about before COVID, you know? So right now I feel like I'm a lot more in touch with my ancestors and my culture.
I mean, when my little brother isn't annoying me, I guess I try to read some like cool comic books or whatever. I mean, my parents are super annoying and they make me do chores all day, so I don't really have a lot of time to do anything else. But yeah, I guess that's what I've been doing.
You know, it seems like a simple question to answer at first, but really, you know, it sets the tone for the entire interview. It's more of like an icebreaker question. John dealt with it, I think, in a very professional way. Connie dealt with it in a little bit of a more personal way, which both are great ways, I think, to build a starter relationship. Obviously, candidate number 3 didn't have much of a connection or wasn't able to elaborate on her passion for much of anything.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of things I want to point out, Megan, are a couple of things that our first 2 candidates did very well was how they dressed and how they presented themselves and the language that they used. It was very professional. And then our 3rd candidate seemed like she had just rolled out of bed perhaps and seemed a little distracted. So I have a quick tip for our students, and I like to call it the first 12 and the last 12. And that means the first 12 inches of your appearance and the last 12 inches of your appearance, so your knees down. And then the first 12 words out of your mouth and the last 12 words out of your mouth. Of course, these rules are a little bit different depending on whether we're doing a Zoom interview or not, but Zoom interviews might become more prevalent these days with being able to connect with folks from across the world. So when you're interviewing, what I like to do is make sure the first 12 inches of your appearance is very professional, that your shirt is ironed, you're not looking tired, your hair is kempt, that you've given attention to how you appear. And then the bottom 12 from the knees down, it's good to wear pants or a skirt that are of appropriate length, and then, you know, shoes that are looking professional. And if it's a rainy day and you're walking through the rain, you know, take a minute to kind of dust your shoes off before walking into an office if it's a physical interview. Obviously, your shoes won't show in a Zoom interview, but still good to mention. The first 12 words, I like to say, out of your mouth should include the person that you're interviewing with, their name, and then a thank you. So thank you, Megan, for having me today. And then the last 12 words also include a thank you in the person's name. So thank you, Megan, for taking time to speak with me today. And naturally, you want to smile, you want to make eye contact, which is important in person, but also important on Zoom. I know eye contact can be a little different on Zoom, but we're trying our best, right?
So what is the most exciting part, I guess, of your day at school, besides the end of the day when the bell rings?
I'd say the most exciting part of the day is being able to interact with different people and being able to have people from different scenarios in life and different goals in life, and being able to, you know, communicate with them and work together on projects. I really enjoy that kind of group mentality of work.
Well, every day at the end of the day, my friend and I would always go to see one of my favorite capstone teachers, Miss Hanson. She's one of my best mentors. Through high school, I've always gone to her for advice over either school things or personal things. She just gives out the best advice. And without fail, every single day after school, we went to see her. And it's honestly the thing that I looked forward to the most, because every time we would go see her, I just got a lot more happy. And also through marching season, of course, rehearsal is definitely one of the things I look forward to. Obviously, rehearsal can get kind of tiring, but rehearsal, it means progress. Every single rehearsal we get better. And that's what I look forward to. I look forward to getting better because I know at the end, the results will really make me a better person.
Definitely lunchtime, getting to hang out with my friends. Classes are cool, whatever, but yeah, I definitely look forward to seeing them in the middle of the day. It's kind of the best part. Megan, there's a couple of things I want to point out about our candidate's response to this second question. I thought John did a really great job of mentioning working with other folks. That's super important in our profession, so it's good to hear those types of things. Connie demonstrated a commitment to learning and betterment as the favorite part of her day, which I thought was a great highlight. And then for our third candidate, it seemed like social hour was the most exciting part of her day, which surely that's fun for everyone. But during an interview, that might make your interviewer think that maybe social hour is the favorite part of your workday, which doesn't shine as well as our first two candidates. What do you think?
I totally agree. And this is a question that's very tell us about yourself. So I think it was really, telling that both John and Connie had, very, very strong perceptions of themselves, and they laid that out forward for us versus, correct, Rachel, the third candidate. She wasn't as articulate. She definitely hadn't thought at all about, explaining herself to somebody thoroughly. And so I think John and Connie had really, really great examples of how to do that.
Yeah, I'll also point out that this is one of those questions that I think interviewers like to use to get you a little comfortable. So it's nice to kind of lean into those questions and let yourself relax when you're talking about kind of a softball type question, like what's your favorite part of the day?
Do you participate in any extracurricular activities at all, or student organizations?
Yes, I do. I've spent most of my high school time in speech and debate, and I plan to continue that. And I've held a leadership position in speech and debate for the last 2 years, where I've been helping with tournaments that we participate in and also the tournaments that we host at our school. And by doing so, I've really had an opportunity to communicate with a lot of different people and build on some of the leadership and teamwork skills. As I'm not the only one holding a leadership position in debate, we have a team of 3 or 4 of us that work together to achieve our common goals, which are for us to have results in our tournaments and have students enjoy speech and debate, and finding ways to kind of create new opportunities for them to expand on all of the opportunities that are involved and the ways that you can learn business skills in speech and debate.
Are there any outside of school organizations that you maybe participate in?
Mm-hmm. Outside of school, I participate in the ACE Mentor program, and I started that this year, and I feel like it has taught me way more than I think I could have ever learned in a year. I've learned so much about architecture and engineering and all of the aspects of ACE and further into construction, but through all of those opportunities and everything that's been provided through ACE, I feel like I'm better prepared for internships, and I'm better prepared for the workforce and architecture school, as I have a better idea of what to expect in the profession, and now further confirmation that architecture is what I want to do with my life.
I'm actually in marching band, which is one of the things that, it's one of the few things that I've committed to such a great extent. Like, I've never committed to something that much. Having rehearsal after school every day for 4 months, rarely any free weekends. It's definitely a huge commitment, but it's taught me a lot about teamwork and definitely time management, especially having to balance school with marching band. It gets really hard, but I've been able to do it. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit sleep deprived, but I'm still at the top of my class. So it's definitely a challenge, but I'm getting through it.
I kind of get to class and do class, and then I'm trying to just, get home to relax at the end of the day, catch some Netflix before I do whatever homework I have to do. So no, not really.
This is a great question. I think the interviewers asked to see if you're standing out more as a leader or if you're more of a worker bee. Neither is bad or good. I think it's a good opportunity for students basically to elaborate on their talents, especially in whether or not you are willing to take on a new challenge or whether or not you prefer something more consistent. John definitely mentioned the word leadership about 5 or 6 times in his interview, which you really want to do if that's the path that you want to set yourself out on, versus Connie, who she was very, very passionate about commitment. So she said, no matter what I'm doing, I'm doing it with, my utmost abilities. And so that type of level of commitment and consistency really goes a long way when interviewing and in the workforce. Rachel, however, she did not participate in any activities specifically. And it's not that I think Netflix is necessarily a bad thing, or they have documentaries online and for students to watch, but I really think that she could have elaborated further and given what inspires her while not watching Netflix, for instance, but she did not do that.
I definitely agree. John mentioned leadership and business experience, which is totally above and beyond. I think our first 2 candidates really just stand out. And it's not to say that leadership and business experience is expected of employers, especially of high school students, but it was great that he could mention those things and definitely help him stand out. I'll echo your comments that Connie, her loyalty shined, and commitment is a word that employers like to hear, definitely. I actually really appreciated that she admitted to struggling with her time management. I think it's important to be a little bit open about the things that you struggle with. It makes you more relatable, because as professionals, we struggle with the same things that Connie mentioned. And it's good to hear that she recognizes that struggle and that she's doing something about it already at such a young age. And I totally agree with you. There are lots of great things on Netflix that Rachel could have talked about, and even just expanding on what she's watching in order to prompt possibly a follow-up question from you, Megan, could have helped with that connection.
I just wanted to add that, John mentioning ACE Mentor program and his involvement in that, most often the people that you're going to be interviewing with are very familiar with the ACE Mentor program. So we really encourage for students to include that in their resumes and to bring that up as a talking point in the interview.
Absolutely. I think participating in any industry type events just shows proactive way of engaging the industry. And so I think that's a positive thing that should be brought up in interviews.
How do you feel about group projects, and what do you find challenging and then, enjoyable about those types of projects?
I think the biggest challenge in group projects is communication. And if you find you're working with good people that are really good about communication, then it makes it a lot more enjoyable and a lot easier to do. And so that's probably the biggest hurdle I find in group work is communication, but I really enjoy it whenever it does work out well.
Whenever you're with a group of people that all want to be there and are motivated to do their work and do an equal part, it's really one of my favorite things to do. I love group projects. I mean, of course, whenever there are people that put in little to no effort, it can get a little bit challenging. But when you're with the right people who want to do work, it's definitely the most productive you can get. Especially whenever you work in a group, it's a lot more enjoyable and you get so many more things accomplished. So I definitely enjoy working in a group. Teamwork is a skill not many people have. I think I've acquired it over the many years I've been working in teams. So I love teamwork, but it just depends on the group of people you're with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always comes with a set of challenges, right? So that's good that you're able to overcome them for sure.
Yeah, because I can get away with like doing the bare minimum, I mean, delegate, right? Get everybody else to do your work so that you can kind of kick back and do whatever, and you get the grade. So it's cool, right? I really like this question because in the ACE industry, it really is about group projects, isn't it? Basically, any kind of project that you're going to be working on in the ACE industry is just a massive group project. So what I loved about John's response is that he mentioned a lesson learned, which shows that he had experience with group projects and was even astute enough to reflect on that experience while answering the question. What I loved about Connie's response was her energy and the level of communication that she mentioned, which is so important in the ACE industry. What I thought was interesting about candidate's number 3 response is she told us a lot about what we needed to know. She's might not be a great fit for the ACE industry since her adversity to group projects was so apparent. I don't think she and Connie would get along in a group very well. Do you, Megan?
Definitely not. I don't think John or Connie would really want to be a part of that group. But yes, I think John, it was really great that he stressed communication, because that's something all of us struggle with. And the fact that he, exactly like you mentioned, the fact that he understands that at such a young age, he's obviously worked with many groups and teams before, and he's been successful in that. And then Connie, I love that she mentioned right out the gate expectations. She said, basically, if other people aren't going to, accomplish that, yes, we have to step in. And, so she's understanding already that there are these expectations that she also should have for her team and for herself. And I thought it was hilarious, Rachel's comment about delegating. Delegating is an incredible skill set of a leader, 100% correct, but your leader has to be willing to do that and so much more. And when you're really applying for an internship, you're not applying for a principal position, you're applying to learn. So I think more on learning and growth is important than delegate. Mentioning delegation in an interview.
Agreed.
Do you have any mentors or folks that you look up to, and who are they, and why do they, inspire you, or why do you admire them?
My key mentor is my former boss, who was at McDo Preservation, which is a historic preservation firm in League City, and she taught me a lot about professional writing and communicating professionally, and being able to produce research projects after many hours of work, and being able to put all the information I find together into one cohesive document. And so all those kinds of skills that I've learned have really established some of the basis for my future, I feel. And so I really look up to her and all of her work.
Outside of school, my brother is definitely one of my biggest mentors. He and I are very like-minded in many aspects. We have a lot of the same passions, which definitely allows me to go to him for advice a lot more, and it becomes a lot more valuable to me because he is part of my family. So I definitely think my brother is my main mentor in life. And also, I take part in this program called the ACE Mentorship Program, of course. And through that program, I've met many professionals within the field I kind of want to get into through like construction, architecture, and engineering. I really want to get into engineering, so meeting with this guy named Danny, a structural engineer, I definitely have learned a lot more about what I want to do in the future. So those are just a couple of my mentors, and all of them have such a passion for what they do, which I really admire. I hope that in the future I end up having that much passion for what I do.
Do you think that that ACE mentorship program that you talked about, do you think it's prepared you maybe for the workforce, for going in and having an internship?
Definitely. I think experience is one of like the most valuable things there is. Through the ACE mentorship program, we like worked on a site plan, and it seemed like it was an actual site plan, even though it was all fake. We prepared for it like it was real. And it was honestly some of like the most interesting things I've done. And it's great to do a lot more hands-on work to figure out exactly how things are supposed to be done. Right? Because I mean, whenever we're learning, we just hear about these jobs and we're just like, oh, that's cool. I think I'd like that. But through this program, I've actually been able to experience what they do in the job, which is really nice.
Do you have any folks or?
Can you hang on like 1 second?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm just like so parched. Okay, yes?
Yeah. Do you have any mentors or anybody that you really look up to?
Not really, but I guess if I had to pick someone, it'd be my cat, maybe. Yeah.
What's your cat's name?
Evelyn. Oh
Find
yeah,
her.
Evelyn definitely matches her name. She loves to lay around the house and sunbathe, and she really just lives her best life every day, and I definitely aspire to that.
So yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it's really structured around being proactive and seeking out guidance that you want to help you grow further in your career. John, I think, was excellent in mentioning his work experience. That's 100% relevant, especially because it's actually been in the architecture industry. So that's incredible to mention. And then Connie, again, reiterated kind of her family values. So that really helps, I think, in building relationships. And then she also mentioned the ACE mentorship program, which is incredible. Just like Monica said earlier, it's a great way to meet people in the industry and then to learn more about the industry and to move forward and grow quicker in the industry. Rachel, please don't ever in a virtual interview crack open a Coke, because that's not what you want to do. And I think, you know, it's a funny thing for her to say, oh, her cat Evelyn inspires her, but maybe she could have gone further with it. But at that point, her favorite part, sunbathing and laying around the house of the cat's life, there wasn't quite a follow-up question to that. I didn't know how to follow that up.
Yeah, I think those are really great points. I'll expand. I thought Connie, she started to light up when she got a little more comfortable when you asked the follow-up question, which she gave you enough information for you to follow up with a question. And she really started speaking from a place of passion, which was really beautiful to see. Yes, it's important for our third candidate maybe to realize that and interruptions are not really a great thing during any interview, especially a Zoom interview. She seemed distracted and was quite rude to you, Megan. I'm so sorry for that. But also, yeah, you're right. She didn't give us any ammo for a follow-up question either. So I totally agree.
The last thing that you kind of sought out knowledge for that maybe wasn't for school?
Probably the last thing that I was looking into was just ways to develop and improve my photography skills. That's what I've really been looking into recently, and also expanding on like my social media presence with my photography and finding ways to build a following with my photos.
Well, I got super curious and bored one day, so I wanted to Google what happens when you pour salt on snails. Me and my little brother were just really bored, so we were like, let's go see if we can find some snails in the backyard and see what happens when we pour salt on them. It's super cool and rad and gross if you've ever done it, but totally worth it. Definitely learned something.
Animal cruelty. We'll add that to your resume.
I think this is a great question to ask during an interview. What's the last thing you sought out knowledge for that wasn't for school? It shows that students are interested in things that are self-led. So taking initiative to learn things on their own, especially during the pandemic when it seems we all have a little bit of extra time on our hands. John answered it so well with the photography response. It shows that he's interested in something artistic, something that might not be offered at his high school, and he's actively seeking knowledge out on that. Rachel's response, our third candidate's response, could have gone many ways after the first portion of it. While high school is a great time to explore things and have fun and do wild, crazy things, perhaps she could have chosen something else to expound on during an interview that wasn't so questionable. What do you think, Megan?
I completely agree. And John's response was very well put together. He's looking towards self-improvement, which is something that you always want from a future new hire. Rachel, on the other hand, nobody wants, an employee who's going to put salt on slugs. That's not something that we were looking for in a potential new hire. Do you have any questions about our firm or what we do?
So I was curious as far as the scope of the work that you're going to be doing at NASA, what you anticipate, like the timeline on that, how long your company is going to spend working to do the NASA project.
So it's definitely going to be a 10+ year project, and it's ongoing. It'll be obviously, we're designing the Orion spacecraft, so we're going to not just be housing the facilities for that, for developing that spacecraft, but as well as additional buildings throughout the campus. So it's going to be, I would say, a 10+ year project. We won't be short on work for some time.
Yes, actually. I've looked into your project with the Johnson Space Center to build the Orion spacecraft, which I found really, really interesting. Would I be able to shadow multiple disciplines within that specific project? Because I know I'm interested in a couple different sides of things, so I would love to see how different professions work.
Certainly, we'll be able to take you, not just be stuck at a desk all day, but you will get desk time. You'd be able to maybe even work on some proposals with us or some presentations that we're going to go on ahead and give to the client. You'll also probably have some 3D modeling aspects to the job, which would be on the computer. But we also want to try to get you out into the field. So that's our goal as well, for you to get a little bit more hands-on activity. I don't think you'll be building anything per se, but you'll be able to observe, certainly.
That was actually my next question. I was about to say, what's the work environment like? Like, what would we be doing? So how are the people, the professionals that work? Like, what's the work environment like?
So I definitely can speak for our Houston office. We have a great group of people, very supportive, and speaking in terms of mentorship and growth, we always try to take our interns out to the site to make sure that they're understanding full circle what we do. And we also try to even give them some client interaction. So we want to make sure that you're going to have a more holistic experience instead of just being stuck drawing a detail or something all day long. We want to make sure that you get experience with all the different disciplines, and we want to make sure that you're getting a good experience. And I will say the people in Houston are some of the best that I've ever worked with.
Yeah, I was wondering how much you guys might pay me for my summer. I got some goals and things to purchase. I'm just curious.
Well, we definitely pay far better than minimum wage. After we kind of evaluate every single candidate, we go on ahead and we have a couple of follow-up interviews, and then we'll have you speak to our HR. And that's kind of when they have a more detailed breakdown of your salary and everything.
Cool. Is there free coffee at the office?
There is free coffee. Yes, lots of free coffee.
Nice.
We even have donuts on Fridays.
Ooh, I gotta kind of like take that morning slow. It takes me a while to get going, but free coffee definitely can get me there.
So did you have any other questions about the work we do, or why were you specifically interested in an architecture, construction, engineering firm?
I'm gonna be honest. I need the job.
Yeah. Okay. This is a great question. It's probably one of my favorites, even interviewer and interviewee, because you're getting to talk about the work and everything that you're doing day to day. So it's super important, I think, to answer your interviewer in a way that is kind of giving good dialogue back and forth to what you're going to be doing on a daily basis. So John, it was great that he had done research on the company. He knew the scope, he was asking about scope of work and the timeline of the project. Connie, I think it's incredible that she asked about the culture of the company. That's very rare, actually, for an intern to be asking questions like that. So I think that shows a lot of growth on her part, even initially. And then she had a bunch of, I just could have followed up questions with her all day long because she was so intriguing, and the questions she was asking were really creating a good dialogue between her and I. Rachel, on the other hand, she only cared really about the money. And so that, although, you should know your worth, I think, when you're interviewing, for an internship position, it's a little different in that it shouldn't be your main motivator. Your main motivation should be to grow and to learn. It shouldn't necessarily just be the paycheck. So
I agree. I'll add, it was very clear that John and Connie took the time to research the company that they were interviewing for and had enough familiarity to ask intelligent questions about the work, which shows that they're interested, and that's really good for an interviewer to see. I will reiterate, yes, culture is so important. You can be happy doing work just about anywhere, but if you don't enjoy the people or you don't think you might be a good fit with the others that are working there, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. You probably won't have a good time. And for our third candidate, Rachel, it is important to talk about those types of things, but even if she was going to talk about those things in a more appropriate way, that was not the way to ask. And it showed that she really didn't know who she was talking to either that day.
what types of software have you utilized, and in what capacity?
I've used Revit to design some basic models. I've used SketchUp for more basic modeling. I've pretty proficient in Photoshop and Lightroom for photo editing, which are some things I've more recently taught myself, but I've spent a lot of time working on. And I know a lot of CAD programs that are more applicable to 3D printing and laser cutting and those kinds of things that I've done at school, as well as Inventor, which more engineering side of Autodesk that I've learned as well.
Do you like using Inventor?
Yes, I do. I really like the 3D way that it builds instead of the 2D concepts of Revit are a little bit more difficult, but I do enjoy both.
I've used Reddit through school, so I have like basic knowledge of Reddit. I've definitely used Microsoft programs a whole lot, like Word, PowerPoint, Excel. I use Excel for Band and Interact a lot because I have to organize a lot of things for those, and I get a lot of advice from my parents about Excel, so I definitely know how to use Excel. And PowerPoint, of course, for school, we use it a ton, and we also make our Interact PowerPoints. But I'm really, really good at learning things pretty fast. So whatever software you give me, I bet I would be able to learn it pretty quickly and adapt to it.
That's great to hear. I think that's one of the most important things, right? Is softwares are always changing and they're just tools. So in the end, it's the person, it's who's operating that tool and who is excited to learn something new.
Well, I try to avoid those computer classes because, I'm just kind of not good at it. I got buddies that really do much better at all that software stuff. They kind of help me through those classes. But if I can avoid a computer, I definitely try to. Is that going to be a lot of computer work for this job?
We do use computers for just about everything.
Okay.
That we do. But we do have, other areas, certainly, a lot of field work as well. So if you really like getting your hands dirty with getting involved with our construction team, that might be a great fit for you.
Yeah,
if that's something that interests you.
I really love the 3 different responses that we got to this question about what types of software that you've had experience with. And John obviously is the most experienced student, and he answered with, a laundry list of things that he has quite a lot of experience in, which is great. Connie, on the other hand, didn't have as much experience with Revit and industry-specific tools. However, what she did do, which I thought was great for an interviewee to be able to do, was play up what she does know. And Megan, she even had you convinced at the end of the question that she could learn it. And it wasn't even a big deal that she didn't have as much experience. Rachel again showed that she didn't really know what the job entailed. She didn't know what she was interviewing for that day. And it seems that she might be allergic to computers. What do you think, Megan?
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to put it. So John and Connie both, I think, gave great examples of how they also use the program. So they didn't just rattle off, a list of them. Connie, what I really liked about her answer towards the end was her willingness to learn about new tools, and then how she actually utilized the ones that she did know. Even though she didn't think she knew many, she did know quite a bit. And Rachel, I think it was really funny. Another way she could have phrased the answer is, instead of saying she's allergic to computers, she could have, steered the conversation more towards hands-on work and said, I'm willing to learn about computer, programs, but I really shine with, person-to-person contact, or I really shine out in the field, or something like that.
You did even try to give her the assist there, and she didn't take it.
Did not take it. So what's your biggest life challenge up until this point, and how have you handled it?
My biggest challenge probably came sophomore year in high school, whenever I reached kind of a roadblock where my grades started going down, and I could see that my GPA was going to fall, and that maybe at my goals of, going to a really good architecture school might not be realized. And so at that point, I had to commit myself to just focusing on getting as high grades as possible. And I was able to bring my GPA back up, and that was really what was important to me, so that I could, when I applied to college this fall, that I can go to the school that I want to go to and had a high enough SAT score to do so.
Have you been studying a lot for the SATs?
Yes, I spent a lot of time on that earlier in the spring, and I took my SAT just before all of this started happening.
So to be honest, I don't have like a pinpoint moment that is my biggest challenge, but one thing I can't really escape is colorism. In India, it's one of the biggest things there is. It's that idea that lighter skin equals success and more beauty. And I'm definitely on the darker side of Indians. So the judgment that I get from family and the Indian community that's here, it definitely drove my motivation to accomplish things way down at one point. But to be honest, I've overcome that a lot, and I've taken their judgment and turned it into more of a challenge that more of something I want to challenge. So I've made it to where those judgments help me accomplish more things.
I got nothing. I got nothing. I don't know. Mom, stop. Oh, come on. I'm on an interview. Jeez. Oh, sorry about that. She just doesn't understand.
Oh, man. So this is an amazing question, where a company really wants to know whether or not you're eager and capable to take on difficult obstacles, not just within life, but if you're doing it within life, you're going to do it in the workforce. John definitely was able to bring that up through his curriculum, which I thought was really an interesting way to take about, we don't typically, I think in a lot of our interviews, ask as much about grades and things like that. So it was a great avenue for him to bring that up as being a challenge for him and how he overcame it. And then for Connie, I think her response was incredible, bringing that up as a challenge, especially in today's day and age. It's great that she's able to identify with that and acknowledge it. And we have plenty of programs at our firm, for instance, that are have a lot to do with inclusion and diversity, and it's a really big part of the workforce nowadays. So I think that's great that she brought that up within her interview. Rachel, I almost felt bad for her mom getting thrown, a shoe at her face, probably. So I don't think that was very mature whatsoever, or an attitude that you would want to have whenever you're conducting an interview. But what do you think, Rachel?
I definitely agree with your comments, Megan. I thought John and Connie showed a level of maturity and self-reflection that we like to see in high school and college interviewees. It shows that they're introspective and that they've thought about some challenges that they faced in their life and showed resiliency and determination. and even have a futuristic outlook on those items. And I think candidate number 3 gives us a very good opportunity to talk about a little bit of webcam or Zoom etiquette when it comes to interviewing, and it's to make sure that, you know, the folks in your house know what's going on, and that they know what you're doing, and where you're set up, and that they can respect the time that you have on the phone. And also, not everyone has terrible challenges in their life or huge obstacles, but Rachel just showed a lack of maturity in lots of different ways, and she could have even handled her mother entering the room in a different way that would have not been so jarring.
Last questions I have for you is, what do you want out of this internship? What would you want to experience?
I've spent a lot of time kind of seeing the principles behind and like the concepts of architecture, volume and space and those kinds of concepts, but I really want to get into the more like practical applications of architecture skills and more into the design of actual buildings and just seeing what that's like, or maybe being able to participate in those kinds of activities while also being able to kind of develop more of those professional skills that I've already learned with my former job and kind of moving those forward and finding new ways to find solutions to problems.
This internship offers insight into architecture, construction, and engineering, which, as I said, is really the field that I want to get into in the future and what I want to really learn about in college. So having this job, this internship as experience, knowing that experience is one of the things that's like always looked for the most whenever looking for a potential hire. I know that experience will help me better understand what I'm getting into and what I want to do in the future. It'll propel me to greater success and accomplishing my aspirations, starting with like providing for myself. That's always been one of my biggest goals. In the future, I want to be able to provide for myself without any help, and becoming an accomplished individual of color and a female. That's also one of my biggest aspirations. I know that being a female of color is always really hard in any industry, so becoming accomplished as a person of color is definitely something I want to accomplish. So I know that this internship will help me get there.
I just need the dough, I want to go out for the weekend with my girls and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm just hoping for some good pay and a good time. This question is really great because what an interview was getting at when they asked, what do you want out of this internship, is your intent. And really what any company is hoping to find in a high school or a college interviewee is the willingness to learn. And I think that John and Connie both hit that point home for our interviewer, and even talked about what they were hoping to learn in the future, and took it even farther out than just the summer, which was great. And then, of course, Rachel didn't seem to have, our third candidate didn't seem to have much of a motivation to learn what the job was about even before the interview. And so that is a good indicator, I think, of her attitude for the remainder of the summer. What do you think, Megan?
I totally agree. And I think one thing that I really liked about John and Connie's responses is the amount of honesty that they both seemed to have. Even, they weren't trying to overdo it or pretend like they had a 10-year-long agenda set out. John hinted that he might, but Connie definitely wants a little bit more experience in the field and to know what she really wants to go into. And so I think that amount of honesty really goes a long way. Rachel, on the other hand, she really just needs the job, to fill up her pocketbook. And that's definitely not a motivator that an interviewer really wants to hear about.
Indeed.
Did you guys have any advice on after the interview, what you should do?
After an interview, I think following up is the absolute best thing to do. And always remember the last 12. You want to make sure you thank your interviewer and repeat their name before hanging up, and serve that with a smile and some eye contact. And if you're in person, and maybe after COVID is over, a nice firm handshake. I am a little old fashioned. I think I love dropping a handwritten thank you note. I think it's a level above, but whether you want to go the extra mile and do a handwritten thank you note, definitely at least send a 3 to 5 line thank you email and have very specific things listed in that email that you all talked about, and mention the company again and why you would be valuable to them.
And I think that's perfect, exactly what Rachel mentioned. And I think the handwritten note really says a lot. I think anything that is more personable nowadays, especially with everything going on, everything being virtual, I think having that personal touch is really going to make a difference. And not everybody does that. So I think that's a great idea. Yes.
Yeah. I'll also say interviews can sometimes be scary, especially if you're not well practiced in it. But I always like to tell folks who are nervous about interviewing is that you're the expert on you. You know yourself better than anyone else in the world, and you know what your likes and dislikes are. You know yourself better than anyone else. So enjoy an interview as much as you can, and don't be nervous, because everything that an interviewer will be asking, you already know the answer to. So relaxing is key, and a little bit of courage goes a long way.
Is there an appropriate amount of time you should wait before you follow up?
I think immediately, especially if you're going to go the handwritten route. Sometimes I'll keep note cards in my car and stamps in my car, and write the thank you note immediately after and drop it in the nearest mailbox, because it'll take a couple of days to get to them. And then with an email, I would say perhaps a day, just so that they have time to move on, but then you're also reminding your interviewer, hey, we had a great time chatting yesterday, and by the way, thank you again.
And I'll start with Rachel, and it was said a few times, but her lack, it wasn't just her lack of maturity, it was her lack of interest that came across so strong. When she said it was just a job, she needed the money, she really wasn't interested in this industry. At least that's what came across to me. John showed knowledge, leadership, and hard work in all of his answers. And Connie showed enthusiasm and positivity. Connie had such a wonderful smile on her face throughout the entire interview that really came across as a comfort level that someone you could see working next to when they're that engaging.
And I don't think we mentioned it because we really weren't able to with the questions, but being prepared, the preparation is, I think, super important. I don't know if we can say just them doing the activity, like that's their version of preparation, but even practicing with their parents or with their friends, or, that they need to practice, because it's not easy to do an interview. It's hard to do an interview smoothly and calmly.
Me too.
Okay, have a good
Me
afternoon.
too.
Let us know what you need.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Have any additional kind of comments they'd like to share with the students?
One thing on practicing interviews is that you can also do it in front of a mirror. And sometimes we're embarrassed to do it in front of parents or friends, and doing it in front of a mirror, you're looking at yourself, unfortunately, but at least you're able to articulate answers to questions and formulate in your mind how you're going to respond. So that's another way to think about it. And one of the things that they pointed out was the preparation. And in today's world, with the internet and your ability to research, always research. I've had students and even professionals come into an interview, and their first question to me is, well, what do you guys do? And so that really is not something that is a turn on, when I'm hoping that they knew a little bit about what we do and what our company does. So learning a little bit about it is about the company is, I think, very critical, very important.
Agreed.
I'm taking a class through the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce right now, and we've had two classes with different CEOs and managing principals through all industries locally. But the one thing that they both have always said is that they look for is they are looking for passionate young people who just have a clear passion for whatever they're doing, whether it's engineering or architecture. They're looking for people that are really excited and want to get up and go to work.
One of the things that was kind of interesting, I don't know if you all picked up on it, but they didn't ask any of those students any math questions, any technical questions. They asked them all soft skill questions. They wanted to know how they were going to work, how they were going to interact, what types of things got them excited. They wanted to know about them as individuals. And so I think oftentimes, as I tell young people, when I came out of college, in my first interviews, I was asked a ton of technical questions because at that particular juncture in time, no one was using computers. So they wanted to hire me for what I knew. Nowadays, they want to hire you for how you're going to interact with fellow workers and coworkers. So it's a big deal nowadays that the internet can get you all the answers. It's how you work and how you, as I say, play together in the sandbox with each other.
And I think that kind of ties back to the comment that Michael put in the chat about how, like, just hand drawing, if you don't have access to a lot of the software that they talked about in the video, but we talk about here in ACE, just knowing the skills of drawing, any you can learn software pretty easily, kind of like what Bill was just saying. They're looking more for you and what you know and what you're excited about, and not that you need to know a specific software. Having that experience is great. I'm not discounting it, but don't be afraid if you don't have all that software experience at this stage. You're fine.
Your presentation's pretty important. Like if you got nose rings, probably want to take them out prior to the interview. The third girl that had their hair flipped up in the air, just didn't present real well. So any way you can look professional, and don't look like you've been sitting in your house for the last year with COVID. Try to be perky and dressed appropriately. You don't have to overdress, but you certainly don't want to underdress. Facial tattoos probably a bad idea.
And the one thing with virtual too is being sure, like, test your technology setup. I'm sure you all are used to this by now, but like different people will use different platforms. I had a hiccup a couple months ago, actually probably more like 9 months ago, where I hadn't used GoToMeeting yet and I was having trouble, so make sure that you know like what technology, if that is a factor, you'll be using, and make sure you've got everything connected right.
You can even go so far as the lighting in the room, the lighting. I don't know how you do it, but I know there's special lights you can get that you shine behind yourself or above you, so you appear, not that you're not really old like me and others.
Yeah, I just got like a selfie ring light for since I do a lot of online video meetings.
Is that what it
just
is?
So I'm lit better. Yeah.
Does that go behind you?
No, it's in front of me. It's like behind. So I'm using a webcam and it's behind the webcam.
Oh, okay.
It's worked out pretty well. And it was cheap. So that was my easy solution. So we've got a minute left here. Want to make sure that we do get these reminders out to everyone. So next week, small group session, like I said, your lead mentors will be, if they haven't already reached out to you with some kind of pre-questions to talk about college next week. We'll also have some time to give you project feedback. The 28th is the deadline to submit videos. Remember, you're entered into a drawing for a $100 gift card, one gift card per small group. So get those videos in by February 28th. And then our online final ceremony will be in a month on March 11th at 5. So like I said, that's where we'll be showing all the videos. We'll also be awarding scholarships at that time and kind of recapping our year. So thank you all for, go ahead.
Wait a minute, before on that March 11th date, the other thing that I would like to encourage all the students to do is to invite your parents to join you.
Yes.
And so that they can see what you've been doing for the past 6 months. And, they would probably be very interested in some of your all's work. So please feel comfortable in inviting them. We have no problems with them joining you.
And like I said, we'll be sending out more information on that. So we do appreciate you taking your time to be with us for all these sessions. We hope that you're gaining a really broad experience of ACE this year, since we've been able to touch on so many different topics. So some of us mentors will hang around for a minute here if anyone does have any questions, either on the video we just watched or any kind of outstanding questions on activities. And if nothing else, I will see you all again in a month at our final ceremony. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that was super helpful. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks, guys. See ya.